Imagine standing on a beach, not thousands of years ago, but 50,000 years ago, behind you. A land you've explored your entire life. Ahead, an endless ocean. No maps, no compass, no sails, no engines, just water, stretching farther than your eyes can see. And somewhere beyond that horizon, there might be another land. Or there might be nothing. Now ask yourself one question. Who would be crazy enough to step onto a few floating logs and paddle into complete emptiness? Because every human alive today is descended from people who were willing to do exactly that. Long before civilizations, long before metal, long before writing, ancient humans somehow crossed oceans and reached islands that no human had ever seen before. But how? How did people with stone tools manage to conquer the world's greatest barrier? The answer is one of the greatest survival stories our species has ever lived. For most animals, water means the end. Lions don't cross oceans. Wolves don't build boats. Even our closest relatives, chimpanzees, almost never leave the safety of land. The ocean was different. It couldn't be hunted, it couldn't be climbed, it couldn't be outrun. For ancient humans, the sea looked less like a road and more like the edge of the world. One mistake, one unexpected storm, one broken raft, and there was no coming back. Which makes something archaeologists discovered almost impossible to believe. Humans were already living in Australia at least 50,000 to 65,000 years ago. There's just one problem. Australia has never been connected to mainland Asia during the entire time humans have existed. Even when sea levels were much lower, there was still open water between the islands. That means our ancestors didn't accidentally walk there. They had to cross the sea. Deliberately. Think about what that really means. Somewhere, tens of thousands of years ago, a group of humans stood on a shoreline, looking at an island they couldn't even clearly see. They had no idea what waited on the other side. No guarantee of food, no guarantee of fresh water, no guarantee they would ever return. Yet somehow, they decided the risk was worth taking. Why? Were they searching for food, escaping enemies, following animals, or were humans already driven by something much stranger? Curiosity. The same curiosity that would one day send ships across the Atlantic, rockets to the moon, and robots to Mars, may have first appeared on a tiny wooden raft floating toward an unknown horizon. But before humans could conquer oceans, they first had to solve a problem that no other animal on Earth had ever solved before. How do you build a boat without even knowing whether it will float? The first boat probably didn't look like a boat at all. There were no shipbuilders, no blueprints, no ropes made from factories, no one to teach the first inventor. Instead, imagine a fallen tree floating quietly down a river, or a bundle of bamboo drifting after a flood. Ancient humans watched nature every single day. They saw logs float, branches survive strong currents, and animals crossing rivers on floating debris. Somewhere, someone asked a simple question. What if I climbed on? It sounds obvious now, but that single thought may have changed human history forever. The first rafts were probably nothing more than logs tied together with vines or bundles of reeds woven tightly enough to stay afloat. Fragile, slow, unpredictable. But for the first time, humans weren't limited by land. They had created something no other animal had ever built, a machine that could carry them across water. But building a raft was only the beginning. The real challenge was knowing where to go. Imagine paddling into the open sea. Within minutes, the shoreline disappears. Every direction looks exactly the same. No roads, no mountains, no landmarks, just sky and water. So how did they avoid getting lost? The answer may have been written in the stars. Long before telescopes, people noticed that certain stars always rose from the same places. The sun always returned. The moon followed predictable paths. Even the winds changed with the seasons. Generation after generation, Ancient humans memorized these patterns, not from books, but from experience. The sky became their first map, and they weren't traveling completely blind. Many islands can actually be found without seeing them. Birds leave the land every morning and return every evening. Floating branches, fresh leaves, and drifting seeds often signal that land is nearby. Clouds sometimes gather above large islands. Even the color of the water changes as coastlines approach. To us, these seem like tiny details, but to people whose survival depended on observation, they were clues. The ocean wasn't empty, it was speaking, and ancient humans learned how to listen. Still, crossing the sea remained incredibly dangerous. Storms appeared without warning. Powerful currents could pull a raft far away from land. Fresh drinking water ran out quickly. One mistake could mean disappearing forever, which raises another mystery. Why would anyone risk it? Archaeologists believe these journeys weren't made by fearless adventurers looking for excitement. They were families, children, parents, entire communities, because finding a new island meant more food, more space, and a better chance for future generations to survive. The ocean wasn't just an obstacle anymore. It had become a bridge. And once humans realized that, there was almost nowhere on Earth they couldn't eventually reach. Once humans proved that the ocean could be crossed, everything changed. Generation after generation, people pushed a little farther, a slightly longer journey, a slightly smaller island, a slightly bigger risk. What began as short crossings slowly became incredible voyages, stretching hundreds, and eventually thousands of kilometers. Humans reached islands that had never known predators like wolves or bears, because no land animal had ever reached them. The first footprints on many of those islands were human. Our ancestors weren't just exploring the world anymore, they were expanding it. Perhaps the greatest seafarers were the ancient Polynesians. Thousands of years ago, they sailed across one of the largest oceans on Earth, not with compasses, not with engines, not even with written maps. Instead, they memorized the ocean itself. They studied the stars, the direction of the wind, the shape of waves, the flight patterns of birds, even the way clouds formed above distant islands. To most people, the Pacific Ocean looks empty. To a Polynesian navigator, it was filled with invisible roads. Every wave carried information. Every bird told a story. Every sunrise pointed toward home. It was navigation, using nature itself. And even today, many scientists are amazed by just how accurate those ancient sailors were. But perhaps the most extraordinary discovery wasn't how humans crossed oceans, it was why. For a long time, scientists assumed people only traveled when they were forced to, running from danger, searching for food, escaping disaster. But new evidence suggests something much deeper. Humans have always been explorers. Again and again, our ancestors left places where they were already surviving to journey toward lands they knew absolutely nothing about. Think about that. Every civilization, every country, every city, every family exists today because somewhere in your family tree, someone looked toward an unknown horizon and decided to keep going. Today, crossing an ocean feels ordinary. We board an airplane, watch a movie, and land on another continent. A few hours later, it's easy to forget how impossible that once seemed. Long before airports, before steel ships, before sails, before written history, someone stood at the edge of the sea and refused to believe that the horizon was the end. Instead, they believed there was something beyond it. That single decision changed the future of our species forever, because every journey, every discovery, every civilization, and every map we've ever drawn began with one simple question. What if there's something on the other side? And maybe that's what truly makes us human. Not our strength, not our speed, not even our intelligence, but the courage to paddle into the unknown, long before anyone knew What was waiting there?